Welcome, everyone. This is Lloyd Williams, and this is Looping, Turning Problems into Solutions webinar. This content is an excerpt from the 2018 workshop series, and will be brief. It's not going to be very long. It's just going to be a tool you can use very quickly and apply it to your practice going forward from here. Over the last 30 years of coaching and consulting and working with both clients as an advisor and as a coach and trainer, I've seen people pursue goals and desired outcomes and dreams, and along the way they've run into problems, as we always do when we try to achieve something. Some people handle it well, some people don't, and some sort of fly through the process with a breeze. And what we find is that there's a difference in the way they approach the obstacle or the problem that makes all the difference in the world. So let's start out first of all, and we're going to look at what we're talking about. When we talk about an obstacle or a problem or interruption, it's a thing that blocks one's way or prevents or hinders progress. It can also be a matter or a situation it's regarded as unwelcomed or harmful and needing to be dealt with or overcome. Both of these and many of the other definitions all have a negative ring to them. They're all this thing that stops your progress. You are moving forward and toward your goal or toward the outcome, and all of a sudden this thing pops up and it stops your progress. And we've always looked at problems as a negative. And the reason being is we look at life this way. We have a desired outcome we want to have. We set a goal out there in the future, and we sort of just assume, or maybe just imagine that we're just going to sort of start on our way and run the path, and it'll keep escalating up and up and up and up and up all the way till we finally reach our outcome. And that if we just continue to have a constant effort, we believe that we'll create success and end up with our desired result. The reality is, all of a sudden along the path, we run into something that wasn't planned for, that we didn't know was going to be there. It's whether we got blindsided or whether it just came out of the blue, or something rears its head and says, hey, you got to stop. You just have to stop. Because our paths are not some nice line rising at 45 degrees to our outcome. It's more like this. It's a path that's covered with signs that say, warning, obstacles ahead. And these obstacles, though we would like to believe that we could just run all the way up the side of this hill, all the way to our desired outcome, the obstacles arise, the problems arise, and they force us to stop. They impede our progress, and we're just forced to stop. So let's take a moment and look at the steps that it takes to achieve a goal, so we can understand why these happen, because they have a specific purpose. They're actually positive and not negative, but we need to understand how to look at them to understand that. So first of all, we start off with goals, some desired outcomes, some dream that we have in our mind. And whether we went away for a weekend and thought of something we wanted to do and then came back to the office and started working toward it, or whether we sat down as a team and looked at our projects and said, this is something we need to pursue in the future. We're beings that try to achieve other things. We try to push ourselves. We go beyond. We look at we dream, and we dream big. But this goal isn't just accomplished all of a sudden by magic, because all of a sudden along the way as we go, a problem arises. Something comes along that was unexpected and stops our process. And as we see in the illustration here, not only does it stop the forward momentum, it sort of slows it up. It sort of, and if we just leave it there, it actually we start going the wrong direction. Left unattended, it actually not only impedes the forward movement, we lose momentum totally, and it begins to fall. And we literally can go lose everything we've just gained. And every one of us knows somebody in your life that had a dream, that had a desired outcome they wanted to pursue, and some problem reared its head and blocked their way. And they never were able to overcome that. It basically stopped them. See, first the progress is slow, but then when the problem continues, we lose that momentum and we fall away. This is the negative view of problems. And many people get caught up in this, and literally it crushes them. I've had friends I've known in the past that had some dream that failed, and they never recovered from it. They just never bounced back. I mean, their whole life was lived out with this failed dream being their predominant story. Now, problems have a purpose. They're not to impede us. They're not to get over here and to shut us down or have us fail or crisis. They are flags that are waved to warn us. They're like a neon light that pops on and says, hey, something's missing. Stop for a moment. Just stop your going. I'm going to stop your forward momentum so you can stop and see that something is missing. Not that you're in the wrong path, or this goal is not something you should pursue, or that you're going somewhere where you're never going to achieve this. No, all this is possible. You can reach your goal, but you've got to stop because something is missing. What we're seeing in the problem, what's standing out in front of us, that neon light, that red flag, is not the actual root cause of the problem. It's almost always some symptom of the problem. It's a step in the path that needs to be done. It's a person that needs to be checked with to get authorization. It's some symptom that comes up, but the root cause of why we had to stop was never what we're dealing with right now. It was something else that was the root cause, and this is just a symptom of not dealing with that root cause. And if we don't deal with the root cause, we keep bumping in to these symptoms. They just keep coming up. Now, so let's examine this root cause. What the root cause really is some missing element. Normally, it's categorized in one of four major areas of our life. It's either in the area of the preparation, what was or wasn't done before we started, or it was something to do with the communication, who we involved or who we talked with, who the stakeholders are, who the knowledge workers are that are involved in it, or it has something to do with the administration or management or supervision around the project being worked on, or it has something to do with the actual design of the process itself, what we're actually doing, the actual steps we're taking. See, what's missing is normally one of these four things, or it could be some combination of these four things that wasn't done or wasn't accomplished or wasn't being maintained. We must identify this missing element, and we do that through diagnosis. Just like the doctor, when you come in with the symptoms of some illness, doesn't all of a sudden just write you a prescription. They sit you down, they examine you, and they diagnose what is the problem. Diagnosis allows us to stop. We're already stopped. The problem itself stops us. But instead of using that stopping action to react with concern or with worry, let's use this stopping to be proactive and diagnose the problem. And what happens is our progress keeps going down, and we need to actually just let it continue, and we just start looking backward. We're going to look back at the problem. So just like you see the line up here, it starts actually curving back. We're going to look back at the problem to find what the root cause is. And we're going to look at these four areas we mentioned. We're going to look at preparation and say, was something overlooked initially? Is there something that wasn't done at the early stages that needed to be done, to be accomplished first? Maybe there's some authorization or somebody that needs to be talked to ahead of time to get the authorization, or maybe there's some preparation work that needs to be done so we're better prepared. Or in the communication area, were there stakeholders that we didn't get involved with, we didn't talk to? Was there some knowledge worker on the team who has specific knowledge about this area that we forgot to ask about, and they know because they've dealt with the home office or dealt with this issue before, that this step here needs to be added in, otherwise you're going to be stopped. And if we'd have brought them in the discussion early on, they would have just said, hey, don't forget to do X. Because if you don't, it's just going to stop. Or maybe it was in the area of administration, and there was a management oversight that was lacking. Maybe the projects got off track because there was lack of oversight and supervision of the project. And then last of all, look at the process itself and ask yourself, is there a step missing in the design of this process? Have we thought through the process itself to make sure we've got all the right steps in the right order? Now, we can identify the root cause by looking and asking these questions. Because unless we identify the root cause, all we're doing is putting Band-Aids on the symptoms. And the Band-Aids come off and the symptoms reappear later again. So unless we dig down to find what the root cause is, we won't be able to get away from this problem rearing its head again. But what's really great is when we do address the root cause, it has a dramatically different result. See, problems are not something we should fear. Diagnosis, by looking directly at the actual problem and trying to identify that root cause, we realize the problems are not something we should be feared or worry about. They're actually good. They actually are really good. They're the actual way we're going to get through to our solution. Problems are just pointers that something's missing. If we only do the diagnosis, we'll see that, and we can then move forward. And the way we do that is we move forward by taking that diagnosis and turning the diagnosis into an actual design of a strategy to remove or to deal with or to address the root cause that we identified. So we see a problem, we diagnose it by looking at these different areas of the process and see where the root cause is. We then can design a solution around that. So if it's preparation, maybe we need to improve our preparation process. And if it's communication, maybe there's other people we should be getting involved earlier on in the discussion around this before we start jumping in to try to accomplish something. And if it's administration, then maybe we just need to establish some oversight to a project or some supervisory role for somebody to keep tabs on how it's moving so it doesn't stop. And if it's a process, maybe we just need to better think through the process itself and make sure we have all the steps. Because when we do this, when we can design this and address the root cause by designing a new strategy, we can then take that strategy and execute it. We can do it. We can describe what the next physical action needs to be to move this project forward by addressing this root cause that's holding us up, and then we can press on and continue on, and the line continues to grow upward like it does. Now, if that was all there was to it, it'd be great. The problem is, unless we have done the proper preparation, done the communication, done all of the proper administration and process design, looping continues to happen throughout the process. We don't have just one problem, another problem rears its head over here, and something else over here, or something else over here. So, but by the time we start something till we end it, we're going to have lots of things that slow us up. But here's the amazing thing about this whole process. If you realize that the problems are not there just to make your life miserable and to make life hard for you, they're there for us to learn. but not for us to solve the symptom and then have to deal with it again later, but to sit and look at the goal and realize that there will be a problem. And if we diagnose the problem, we can identify a strategy to then implement to change it. But the process of identifying the problem and then diagnosing, designing, and doing around it creates a pattern in our brain. And we can now recognize and react to that pattern when we see it. What's even more amazing is before the symptoms even appear, we can begin eliminating the elimination process because we recognize the pattern is starting to form. And we can remove the problems before they even occur. But we can only do that by doing the proper prep, communication, administration, and process design. So as we work through our existing problems in a proper manner and identify the root causes, we now know when we're going to do a similar process in the future that we've got to do this step here, which we didn't do earlier, but now we know how to do it. And we don't have that problem again. We just fly through it. And all the time that was lost in the past to solving problems or dealing with obstacles or dealing with challenges that were coming up out of the blue, sort of blindsiding us, that's now gone because we're now proactively, we've solved them in the past, we're now able to use that knowledge in the future in a proactive manner, and we're now turning that lost time into productive time. So here's what the looping process looks like. Up on the website, on my website, wlloydwilliams.com, you can go to the bottom of the home page and just type in the word looping, and you can download this same worksheet. What I want to do right now is I want to take and just walk through this as an exercise. I'd like you to think while we're talking here about some goal you're dealing with in your practice right now. Some outcome, some dream, some desire, some project you're working on that's important to you, and there's an existing problem in that workplace right now. There's something in that project that's holding you back. So what we're going to do is you would take a moment and just describe and remind you and the team what the goal is or the desired outcome you're going after is. And then you identify, you just write down what the problem is that exists right now. Then what you want to do is take and diagnose this by looking at those 4 areas again. You're going to look at the actual preparation you did. Was there something that was missing? You're going to look at the actual communication that you did up front. Were there people not involved that should have maybe been involved? Or are there people now that you need to talk to that had you talked to earlier in the preparation phase, you would have to do it now? Or is there an administration issue? Is there somebody that was overseeing this that maybe got distracted or failed to keep a close watch on it? Or there's some administrative task that's holding everything up? Or last of all, is there just a process? There's just a step missing in the process. So think through what you're seeing in that problem itself, and look beyond it. What caused that problem? What was the root cause of that actual problem? It's not the fact there's a paperwork there. It's the fact that the paperwork's always been there. It's the fact that we didn't talk to the person in operations who knew that paperwork needed to be filled out. It was a communication issue. It wasn't a paperwork issue. The paperwork's always been there. It's always been necessary. We just didn't know it because we didn't incorporate all the other stakeholders and knowledge workers that have the information that we don't have ourselves. Too often we go away, find a great idea we love, come back to the office and start implementing it the next day without doing the preparation work, without communicating to other stakeholders on the team and getting their feedback and getting their input into it, without establishing some kind of management oversight so that when we're now away, it's not being maintained. And we didn't really take the time to sit down and think through the process to see what's going to be coming up down the pike that we might have to deal with and address. But by going through and identifying and taking time to write down what your diagnosis is, then you can very clearly take and specifically design a strategy around that to eliminate that root cause. Then all you have to do is say, okay, Here's our strategy. Now, what's the first physical action we need to take to move it forward? So you now create the actual tangible next step that needs to be taken and assign it to an individual on the team to do. And now you're able to get back on gear. And what happens is all of a sudden the loop has been completed and you're now back on track on the same course you were on before. But here's what's even more amazing. You don't have to wait for the problem to occur. Maybe you've got a process right now that's not this running along perfectly. You got a project that's just humming along. And you say, but you know, like life as always is, some problem is going to rear its head. So instead of waiting for the problem to come up, proactively identify the problem that may occur, and then turn around and go through the exact same steps, just as if it was a real problem existing now. So by looking at those four elements of the root causes, and looking and seeing what in the area of preparation may not have been done, what in the area of communication may be lacking and is going to come back to haunt us, what part of administration are we not doing in terms of oversight, and where in the process is there some design flaw that may cause the problem. And by proactively looking at this, we're able to preempt any problem arising. And this is what you see with those great teams, those individuals in life that just look like they just skirt through life with no problem. It's not that. They spent the time to build these processes up so they've got muscle memory. They've got pattern recognition, and they can see them coming ahead of time. And they also take time to look out there and proactively identify problems that may occur and not just wait until they do occur to deal with them. Now, what makes the looping process extraordinary is we learn not to fear problems. That's the biggest gift this whole tool brings to us. Is we've always looked at problems as a negative. They're not. They're a great positive. They really are a sign, a flag waved to show you the way you need to go. But you have to look at them proactively to see that. As a signpost, there's something missing here that you need to address. And if you do address it now, you can avoid it not only now, but in the future. Problems aren't to stop us and to crush us and to make us, forget our goals and go on and do something else. They allow us to go through positively forward to address not only this problem, but problems in the future that haven't yet to even occur. Because the more you use this, the more that muscle is built and developed. The more you apply the process, your practice, the less often problems will arise. Because more of them you will do subconsciously. You will do the prep work. You will do the communication. You will do the administration, and you'll do the process design innately. Now, this whole presentation comes from two books. I've recommended them in the past, and I recommend them again now. One is The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday, and the other is Ray Dalio, the founder of Bridgewater Associates, the hedge fund, his new book called Principles, Life, and Work. Both of them, when you download the looping process form off the website, on that same blog post is the actual link to the two books. I highly recommend both of them. Dalio's book is now one of my favorite books, business books out there. Now, this concept comes from the 2008 workshop series. Looping is one of the numerous exercises and tools we discussed during the workshop. If you'd like more of this type of tool, then register now for the fall and participate, because this is just one of the tools you're going to use to help future-proof your practice going forward. Now, I really appreciate the time you've given today to come and participate with us here. I appreciate this. I hope it's been helpful. I wanted to keep it short since it's just a lunch break sort of webinar. And I thank you for attending, and I appreciate everything, and I hope it can be helpful to you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop me an email, and I'll be happy to address any of your questions that you might have at that time. So thank you again, and I appreciate it very much for you coming and joining us.